Hide non-video participants. Oh, cool. So I believe we are now live. So I will get that going. So hopefully that should be working. Hello everybody. I understand it's 11 o'clock, so I guess this is the official start time. Welcome everyone to Bangor's Dumfries and Galloway. This is the Ask Me Anything event with Scope and Strathclyde University's Physics Society. So Scope is the student society for postgraduate students. So we're to do with physics, optics and engineering, so covering quite a broad range of subjects. So we are just a group of students doing outreach activities such as this and other fun things, and just trying to get a bit of community together going in the postgraduate society, postgraduate community, because otherwise it can be quite a lonely affair. So this is just a way to get students together and doing fun things such as this. I'll now hand it over to Richard, who is the president of the Physics Society, and who will be the host for today's event. Richard.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming. So yeah, today we'll do an Ask Me Anything type of event, just answering your questions all about student life and just about physics or about STEM in general. So first things first, just a bit about the Strathclyde Physics Society. We're the main undergrad society in the university. What we do is just plan events with students. We plan some social events as well all the time. We're also sort of like a support as like part of the student union, supporting students with drop-in sessions or just well-being events and things like that. So the way this is going to work today, we're going to use Slido, and we'll show in a second on the screen basically the link when you can just go. You have two ways of doing it. So you can either scan the QR code with your device and it'll take you to the Slido website where you can just ask any questions you've got. You can always add questions as we go, as we answer more questions, so don't be afraid to just ask anything you want. Also, you can just go to slido.com and then put in the hashtag that we show on the website, which is Scope out Uni, and you'll be able to submit more questions. So first things first, I'd like to introduce our panel. So I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Richard. I'm a Spanish international student at Strathclyde. I'm just finishing my 4th year of undergraduate physics. My last final project was all about atomic physics. So that's sort of the thing that I've been researching at the moment. It's all about cooling atoms and about doing experiments on certain types of atoms. And my experience at Strathclyde has been pretty good. I'm still got another year to go because I'm doing an integrated master's. That will be a 5-year course. I still got another year to go where I'll be able to do more research at the Department of Physics. And I'd like to pass on to Kirsty so she can tell us a bit more about herself.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Kirsty. I'm also just finished my 4th year and going into my 5th year. And I am the media manager for the Physics Society. My last project for undergrad has been in plasma physics, but specifically an astrophysics topic, which is quite unique for Strathclyde. And going on to 5th year, I'm kind of hoping to continue plasma because that's a part that I found that I'm quite interested in physics. So yeah, and then I'll pass on to Brandon.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm also just going into my 5th year at Strathclyde. My project was on photonics, more specifically 3D imaging techniques. Hopefully in 5th year, I'll get to develop what I've been researching further and just get more into what we've been looking at so far.
Thank you so much for that. So yeah, so you might be thinking you'd like to maybe go to university. You might be thinking, what was the process like to get to university? What do we like? What do we dislike even? So any questions you've got, you can just go scan that QR code, go to the website, and you can just submit your questions, and we'll go through them as we are on the Ask Me Anything. So this is pretty much taken from Reddit or like a Q&A. So it's just answering your questions. So yeah, would you guys be happy to start?
Yep.
Amazing. So also very important, when you go on the platform, you're also able to like or like upvote the questions you like. So if there's any questions that you like on the list or you like to be so prioritized so that you really like, you'd like us to answer that question, you can just give it a like, and it should sort of prioritize it and move it up the list, and we'll get to it faster. So if there are any questions that you especially like, you can just go click on that. So the first question, why choose physics? It's a really good question. There's so many different subjects out there, especially in STEM. There's so many things. Kirsty, can you give us a bit about your perspective on why you chose physics?
Yeah, so this was quite interesting for me because I actually started on chemistry and switched over to physics. So I haven't always been on physics. I done physics as an elective initially, and I just found it, for me personally, more interesting because I've always been interested in kind of physics topics, such as space and stuff growing up, and I just felt like physics was a good kind of middle ground for me in science, especially to kind of go off, because there's so many paths that you can take with physics. There's not just one kind of straight path to be a researcher in physics. There's so many other things. And I did like the kind of challenge from like kind of math side of it as well, because maths was always something that I kind of enjoyed in school, and I wasn't quite ready to let go of maths yet, and there was more maths and physics as well.
That's pretty good. Was there something in chemistry, was it more that you loved physics, or was something in chemistry that you found in physics instead?
Yeah, I think that the theory side of physics was what caught me more, because like I definitely did like love all the labs and stuff in chemistry. It wasn't that I disliked chemistry, it was just more so that there was more of a passion when I done physics, and I definitely think that when you're going to study something, it helps so much if you're doing what you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely, I completely agree. What about you, Brandon?
I always enjoyed physics at school, and that was what I really just wanted to go into afterwards. Like I loved the projects we did, the research, and that's just what I've always wanted to do after school as well, and after uni. So yeah, I just always was drawn to physics.
Yeah, I can also relate to that. I feel like when I was in high school, I was definitely, I want to know how the universe works. I want to know about, just the small things, just like everything, like wanting to know how things move, how planets move, how it's just the universe works in general. And then I think a lot of sort of science communicators online, sort of like YouTube kind of thing, learning about quantum physics and things like that, I always found really, really fascinating. So I feel like I was always drawn to physics from the start. So it wasn't really a hard question for me. I did sort of consider mathematics because I've always liked sort of, I guess the theoretical, well, math is so pretty much theoretical, but sort of like, using numbers to do weird things. And that's why I was drawn into maths. But at the end, I think physics, just for being tied to real, reality and how you can measure things, I think that's why I chose physics as well. So I think we can move on to the next question. Will being a theoretical physicist support me financially? Would one of you want to have a go at this question?
I mean, yeah, it will. It won't be like, doctor money, but you'll be comfortable.
Yeah, and I also think that it's like important to know that even if you specialize in a specific bit of physics, you're not bound to just doing that. Like I know that I want to specialize in plasma physics, but that doesn't mean after university all I can do is plasma physics. It just means that that's something I've taken more of an interest in now. It definitely doesn't mean that you're tied to that one thing. If you become a theoretical physicist, there's still going to be loads of paths for you to take, not just theoretical physics.
Exactly, yeah. So I imagine you're sort of thinking just the research, which it is a growing field. You'll always find sort of funding for research, but even when you study to be a theoretical physicist, there's so many skills that you acquire on the way that you'll be highly valuable in sort of industry, in academia. There's a lot of things and you have a lot of choices. So And also when you start studying physics, even though maybe your first goal at the moment, oh, I would like to be a theoretical physicist, you'll learn so many things along the way that might sort of change about your path. Maybe you like certain things better. Theoretical physics could be in so many different sort of subjects in physics, within physics, that you could end up doing something completely different to what you've got in your head. So I think that absolutely yes. So physics it can be a very lucrative career and definitely support you financially. It's in sort of like a base level. So yeah, absolutely. So I think we can move on to the next question. What's the workload like? How are you feeling, Kirsty, about the workload?
I think it definitely depends what time of year you ask us, and I think everyone would agree on that. If you ask us at the start of the year, we're probably quite relaxed. If you ask us a week before exams are due, we're probably a lot less relaxed. I definitely would say though that in comparison to school, personally for me, I think we are expected to do a lot of kind of self-study that maybe isn't pushed as much in high school. Like if I finished classes in university, say at like 3 o'clock, I would probably go to the library until 7 and do my own work and then go home. So I definitely think that the workload is definitely more on your shoulders. You have to take much more responsibility, which some people do prefer and some people don't. It just really does depend on your kind of own like kind of studying ideals.
Yeah, I agree. So I think if you're able to split your workload, so do a bit of work, maybe not every day, but like every class, you're also on top of everything, I think you'll do absolutely fine. I'm not one of those people, unfortunately. But if you're able to sort of pace yourself and always do some work, at the end, when it comes to the exam, everything will be in your head and it will be absolutely fine. And I also think, in my experience, the sort of the tests and the exams have been sort of reasonable. They're not expecting you to sort of know all these things at the end. Like it's pretty much the course and what you've been taught. It's not like completely outlandish. It's been absolutely fine for me. But everyone has, I think, a different experience. In terms of sort of the lab and all that stuff, you will have to, in some regards, always be on top of the experiments and all the things you're doing. I've seen like a lot of my friends with their essays, they're always writing an essay, and I'm like, oh my god, how many essays do you have to write every week? In our case, it's sort of like being on top of the experiments or being on top of classes in general, which I think applies to most subjects. How about you, Brandon? Do you think the workload has been quite a lot?
It's always been manageable is the main thing for me. Like I've been really busy, but I've never really been overwhelmed with just what do I do? I've got so much work. I think it's also different to school in that you're studying one thing that you really you've chosen, you enjoy it, instead of say like your 5 hires, all different workloads. It gets to a point where it all kind of links together. So you'll do like a tutorial for one thing, and I'll give you the resources to work on something else as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it does help a lot that it's less subjects than in my experience in my high school. So you only have to focus on a few subjects and making sure you're on top of them. But yeah, that's pretty good. So the next question is, when starting, did you consider your future employability with a physics degree? How about you, Brandon? Were you thinking about that when you were sort of thinking about going to university?
No, not really. I was thinking about I did know I wanted to go to university. I just wanted to do something I knew I would enjoy. And I'd figure out the employability part afterwards. And luckily I chose physics, which is one of the most transferable degrees you can get. So I kind of fell into this, luckily, but
that's good. How about you, Kristen?
Yeah, I think that I did think of the employability side a little bit. I did kind of look into what job prospects there would be for the kind of subjects that I was interested in. mainly because whenever you say you're studying something, people go, but what job can you do? So it was quite useful to know what stuff, and I think people are quite surprised when you tell them the amount of things you can go into from studying physics, but I definitely would agree with Brandon in the sense of make sure you're studying what you enjoy and everything else will fall into place as long as you're doing something that you actually enjoy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's like at the very beginning when I was sort of thinking, what am I going to do? I was not thinking about what career or what thing I was going to be doing for money. I think at first I was just like, I'll follow my passion and then we'll see what happens later. But then you realize that actually there's so many different sort of jobs that you can do in physics. And as Brandon said, it's very transferable. So you start, even if you start in physics, you can go into chemistry, you can go into biology. There's so many things. And there's also a lot of careers that's all in between that you can also fit into. So I think that's really, I hope that answers your question. So we got another question about sort of uni culture. How's it been like? So lots of drinking. How has it been for you guys?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the person. I know people that have came to uni and they've had very party lifestyle, and I know people have came to uni and have kind of avoided it. I personally would say that your first and second year will probably be more wild than your third and fourth year, though. I think there does get a point in your uni like kind of life where things start to settle down a bit just because you're like getting to kind of harder stuff, which is totally fine. But another side of uni culture that I think is quite nice for people to get involved in is the societies and kind of clubs and stuff. Because I've joined quite a few societies being at uni, and I definitely think that I've made like some really good friends just from joining those societies, and it's really like good to like feel like you're getting involved. So there's also that kind of culture, and obviously we've got our Glaswegian culture as well with all our museums, and yes, the drinking culture and everything else that comes along with that. So yeah, uni culture definitely I think can vary depending on what uni you go to as well.
Yeah, I'd agree. I feel like the clubs and societies we have are just the best way to make friends and try new things out. I just joined a bunch of clubs for stuff that I'd always wanted to try, and some I didn't enjoy, some I really did. But it also depends on you and the friends you have and the friends you make, because you don't need to have wild party nights in your first and second year. You can just chill out, watch movies. Uni culture is just like what you make of it, really.
Sure.
Yeah, I also think it also depends. I think I've seen the experience of people who sort of come to uni for the first years. In my experience, I was basically living in campus, so you do it's a lot easier to sort of meet people because you're already there. And I guess my experience was that living in a flat with like lots of people, there's always something going on. So if you want to, in the first years of uni, sort of go get that experience, go out a lot and all that stuff, there's always that option. And if you're not on campus, then all the societies will be really helpful because they're always planning events, they're always planning social events, and you can always get involved with those. So yeah, I agree with both of you. If you are sort of starting uni, don't be I know lots of you can be a bit shy at the beginning, but don't be afraid to join literally every society just to try it out once, just to see how the people are. Most of them will be very friendly. So I'd say if you have the chance in next year, hopefully we can have all the events and all that stuff, and you go to sort of the union event when you can see all the societies, do get involved, to have a wee chat with everyone. I know I didn't personally join any of the like sporty events, but I know a sporty club, sorry. But I know they're really fun because I've heard people have had a great experience with sort of like the sports societies. So yeah, I think the uni culture in that respect can be just whatever you make it. Cool. We've got a question about Strathclyde. So why Strathclyde? You have all these options and then you submit all your applications and all that. Then why you guys choose Strathclyde?
I think one reason for me was partly because I didn't want to move out initially in first year, so I only applied to kind of local unis. But then another reason that I chose Strathclyde was like I knew that for like the kind of STEM subjects at Strathclyde, they were really good for the research side. And I knew that kind of research and that kind of stuff was the side that I was personally interested in. So it made sense for me to go to a university which was kind of the leading university at the time and still is for like research. So that definitely was what caught my eye. And that it's like in the site centre. I really like that because I'm so close to everything, and it really makes other things easy, such as trying to get a part-time job or like or going for days out and being a tourist in my own city, that kind of thing as well.
How about you, Brandon?
I would mostly agree, except I came here because I wanted to move. I wanted to move away. Like I was in Aberdeen, so I wanted to move to a bigger, better city, and just have that experience of just like Kirsty said, being a tourist in the city. And Strathclyde, best for research and physics, definitely.
Yeah, I agree as well. Well, in my experience, because I'm from Spain, so I came to Scotland because I came here on just to check out the universities. I really fell in love with Glasgow when I came here. I think I applied to a few universities like around. I think I applied for Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Strathclyde, and I agree. Strathclyde is one of the best for sort of research. You can see the research output of the department is incredible. And also in my experience of studying here, I know there's a lot of very active research research groups in the sort of the science department. So that's really good for a young, I guess, someone who wants to be a researcher in the future. There's been lots of opportunities as well, so that's a very good reason, I think, to choose Strathclyde. So the next question, this one's, what surprised you about uni? This one's interesting. What do you guys think?
I think for me it was like, it sounds quite kind of bizarre, but how much I've enjoyed uni. I thought I was going to come and be stressed out, and it was just going to be like a continuation of school. It was just going to be constant, like work and no play. And then like I've just been like really like lucky with like the course I've joined and like the societies I've joined, and like how I've made really good friends, like to the point where like I know like a lot of them are friends for life. And I think that it really surprised me, just like kind of in the least cheesy way possibly, how kind of at home I felt. Just being at like a university where I kind of enjoy what I'm doing.
That's really nice. How about you, Brandon? Is there anything that surprised you so far?
I'd agree. I thought I'd be run off my feet, constantly busy, constantly just regretting the choices I made. But I've really enjoyed it. I didn't think I'd enjoy the more like self-study aspects as much as I did. But just being able to go through stuff at my own pace and like knowing how far ahead I can read and everything. It's just been really nice to have that freedom of going at your own pace.
Very good. I think for me, so the resources and the support that the university provides, it's pretty good. So if I remember sort of struggling a bit with the math at the beginning, you could go to the math skills center, and there was like a PhD student there to sort of help you with stuff. If you're having issues with sort of studying, you've got the study skills center. So there's a lot of support and sort of department that you can just drop in and sort of ask for help for anything that's going on. And I think that's pretty good. That also surprised me quite a bit. So we can jump on to the next one. I want to be a theoretical physicist, nice, but I hate coding. Am I required to study heavy coding in order for me to be a physicist? And how have I got this question? Well, theoretical physicists usually do run a lot of simulations in my experience that I've seen. Because basically you're making a physical model to explain the behavior of something in the universe. So you build a model. It can be sort of an equation or sort of an idea, and then you translate that into some calculations to sort of build a model that can explain a phenomena. So I'd say you probably do have to do some coding, because the way it works is, if you have an idea and you want to test it, you probably run sort of like a simulation, and that simulation will give you some results that you can analyze and see, does this sort of correlate, or is this similar to what we see in the real world? And if you see a correlation, you can say, oh, well, this model that I came up with explains certain things about the universe that do show. So I'd say, in a way, you will have to do some coding, but it's not heavy coding. It's not computer science coding. It's going to be a lot simpler, and it's going to be manageable. There's a lot of courses when we use MATLAB at the beginning of our university, and it's just basically they tell you everything about how to plot graphs, how to plot your results, how to make the equations, and you'll get used to it, and it'll be much easier the more you do it. It's that kind of thing that you have to sort of practice, and it'll become secondhand. So you do have to do some coding, but most physicists that I've sort of had a chat with, especially like PhD students, they sort of recognize themselves that they don't know that much about coding, and they say, oh, I probably should know a lot more about coding. But they manage with sort of like a normal kind of, so graphing things, making a few simulations. So it's not heavy coding, it's not computer science. I've seen the curriculum for computer science, and they do all these concepts and all these things. So in physics, we use coding as like a tool, just like we use maths as a tool. You know, we don't have to know everything about math. We sort of use math as a tool. In the same way, we also use coding and programming as a tool to make our simulations and our experiments. How about you guys? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said. Like, there's definitely not a way to go through the whole of physics without doing code. However, I would add that when I joined physics, I had done zero coding. I hated it with like a passion. I wanted to avoid it at all costs. And now, after kind of doing my fourth year dissertation fully on Python, like the full thing was in Python, I've like shifted that kind of like almost fear I had for coding to actually really enjoying it now. So I wouldn't have like a kind of fear just yet. Like, I definitely agree with everything you're saying. You're given all the kind of tools. I was someone that would get an error after writing 2 lines of code initially, and now I've been able to do simulations and stuff. And yeah, it definitely is like something that the more you do it, the more it will start to come naturally to you.
Okay, great. So Brandon, have you got any comments?
I'm the same as you guys. I didn't enjoy coding when I started, and I've really come around to it.
Yeah, I think that's the experience of a lot of people as well. So the next question is it possible to work part-time while studying physics? Have you guys got experience with this?
Yeah, I'd say that it's definitely possible. I know so many people that work part-time, but I would say the majority of people that do work part-time, the majority of their hours is at their weekends. They do try and keep the hours during the week for studying, but I'm not saying that it's impossible to do maybe an evening shift here and there during the week. I just definitely would be mindful when taking on shifts to know how much you can do alongside studying. I know a lot of people who go into kind of tutoring because that's something that they can fit around their studies, or like part-time jobs that the university offers. Hopefully most employers would be understanding and they would let you fit it around your studies. But yeah, it definitely is possible. I've had part-time jobs in university, and I've managed to kind of juggle that.
Cool. Yeah, I can also say from experience, I'm a self-funded student, so I've been studying ever since first year. Working ever since first year part-time. So my hours have shifted quite a bit, but I always made sure to keep them at a reasonable level. Sometimes I've been sort of asked, do you want a higher contract? And I'm like, no, I'm studying, please. But yeah, absolutely. And I've also worked during the week, so have week hours, and I wouldn't recommend it just because having uni in the morning and then having to do a shift in the afternoon, it just sort of drains you quite a bit. So I'd say I wouldn't, if you can, keep your hours. If you have a part-time job, keep your hours on the weekends. It's always possible, and in my experience, lots of managers are mindful of this, and usually all the staff on the weekends is people that are at university, and I know from my workplace that a lot of people that are there are studying, and the managers are quite mindful of that they're supporting them on their careers in a way. So it's definitely possible. And my advice would just to be mindful of how many hours you're doing.
Yeah, the hours thing is the main issue, I'd say. Just you don't want to do way too much and just lose track of what's going on at uni.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We can go to the next question. What sort of support did you have when things got tough? What do you guys think?
I think Strathclyde is really good for their support system from a kind of personal point of view, not just with one thing as well. I'd say like you were saying earlier on, with the kind of support they had for maths, and I used when I first joined physics, and I'd done mechanics, optics and waves, and I was like, this is nothing like school, what have I got myself into? And I went to the drop-in sessions, and they were so helpful, and they explained everything. And then there's also, if you have any learning difficulties, there's also the disability service, which really, really helps. They give people extra time, they give people any additional needs that they will need to kind of put them on a level pedestal with everyone else. And they also have a really good wellbeing service too, which offers kind of support groups, therapy, and loads of resources for that as well. So I think no matter what this person's meaning by things getting tough, there's always going to be a kind of level of support that you can reach out and try and get from the university.
Yeah, I agree. Kirsty's spot on. So all those services are at your disposal. Also, the university sort of assigns you some members of academic staff that you can always reach out to if you have any issues at all. You always have as your personal advisor that you can go to if you have any if you are having any difficulties. They should also sort of check up on you once in a while just to make sure you're okay and that you're doing fine in your course. So there's definitely support available at university, 100%.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there usually good opportunities for internships, Erasmus, etc.?
There's loads and loads of opportunities for internships. The onus is mostly on you. You do have to reach out to the people that you find their research interesting. But so far, I've tried a few. I've never managed to get the funding, but I've reached out to 3 or 4 different professors, and every single one of them has been fully on board, project proposal ready. Really help me out.
Yeah, and I think even if you don't manage to get an internship specifically, there's always loads of ways to kind of gain experience. I've been a part of societies which are being kind of engineering based, where I've got to kind of do research and stuff through that, and I've had part-time jobs that I've got that's actually been advertised by the university, which kind of coincide with physics. So even if it's not specifically an internship, there's so many ways for you to kind of bulk up your CV. And Erasmus is obviously kind of more difficult for us to discuss this year because of the pandemic, but I do know people that have I know kind of both sides, people that have studied abroad and enjoyed it, and I know people that have came over to Strathclyde for a year and also really enjoyed it. So there's definitely been good opportunities. I'm not sure how that's going ahead with kind of what's going on with Brexit. I know that it might not be called the same thing, but I know that they're planning to put something similar in place, which is good to kind of hear.
Yeah, definitely. I think it should be the Turing scheme or something similar. So hopefully that'll be set up for next year. I know a lot of people that have gone, I think it's their 3rd year abroad, and I also wanted to do this, but at the end it just didn't pan out. But there's usually the university has some departments where they have agreements where you can sort of go there for a year, and I know lots of people. I've got a friend that went to Canada and really enjoyed it. She had an amazing time in Canada. So there's definitely lots of opportunities. And in terms of internships as well, yeah. So I think most professors are very responsive. So if you have an idea and you're sort of inspired and you'd like to work with them, there's definitely a chance. Funding is always a bit tricky, but it's always about applications and all that stuff. But they should always be able to guide you through how to get the funding. But yeah, there's lots of opportunities as well with the Strathclyde Union, or any university union will always have vacancies. If you want to do volunteering, there's great opportunities for volunteering as well. And just pretty much anything you do with sort of societies. If you're part of a society committee, or you're planning things with a society, that also counts as you volunteering for the union. So that'll always be good for your CV. Just in addition to all the other things you can do as well. So we can go to the next question. I'm a sophomore high school student. Any suggestions for what I should do at the time, keeping aside my academic studies? What do you guys think?
I think that if there's anything that you kind of do that's extracurricular you're enjoying, like I wouldn't worry about like trying to do something in particular specifically. However, like, yeah, if you are kind of interested in university, then I would kind of look up universities. I would start kind of engaging now in what universities you want to look at, because one of the things I kind of struggled with was kind of choosing the university initially, and then kind of getting engaged with all that stuff really helped. But for what to do now, yeah, just kind of like anything you're doing, keep a note of all the stuff you're doing, because something that you think might not look good to a university probably does. Like Richard was saying, if you've done any kind of volunteer work, put that down. If you're part of any clubs or societies, such as like, I know in high school I was a scout, so I put that down, and I put kind of some like awards and stuff I'd done through them down. All that kind of stuff that is kind of making you stand out is definitely like going to help you, even if you think at the moment that it won't.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in STEM in general, if there are any sort of science centers in your city, if there are research facilities where you can go on their website and just double check if they've got any opportunities, that there's usually lots of opportunities. I know in the Glasgow Science Centre, they've got lots of things as well for high school students that they can get involved with. Even sort of citizen science project and things like that. So yeah, there's definitely lots of things that you can get involved with. Next question, any thoughts about studying physics as an undergraduate in Germany? I personally don't have any experience with this. Do you guys know?
No.
No.
I know that there are very, very good universities in Germany, especially for physics. I would say we're not the best source for information, but if you know German to a reasonable level where you can sort of either you have enough time to improve so that your university level, or if you're sort of looking for an English taught, there are a lot of universities that have sort of English courses as well. So maybe you have like basic German where you can sort of live around there or learn it whilst you're studying there. And then look for a university that has an English course as well. So that's definitely an option. But unfortunately, I don't really have any information that's very useful about that. Apologies. We can go to the next question. Is it true that the first 2 or 3 years as physics undergraduate are hell for most people? Kirsty, what do you think?
I really enjoyed the first couple of years of uni. I had a lot of fun in first and second year. I actually personally think for me that first year was probably my easiest year, just because I had done advanced higher maths in school, and the advanced higher maths course was very much like I'd already done all the maths. So for me personally, first year was definitely my easiest year in that sense, and I don't feel like there was too much of a jump going to second year. The biggest jump I've felt so far was the labs from second to third year, just because you go from kind of getting told exactly how to do everything to kind of getting more independence. And even though it is difficult, I understand why it's useful, but I wouldn't say that it was necessarily hell. I would still say that the first couple of years actually for me were much more relaxed. And I think maybe in the later years is more so when it would have gotten more difficult for me. But yeah, no, that's just my experience.
Yeah, I would agree as well. So the first year, I think for me was I also found it easiest, but I was also very thankful because it was a big shift coming from high school to university, and also I moved to a different country. So I feel like it was really, really necessary to adapt. So I was really thankful for that, and I found it sort of reasonable. A lot of the classes. I'd say the biggest jump is definitely second to third year as well. It's more of a shift to sort of independent study, and also you know a lot. You get to study a lot more the academic side of physics. So you're reading more papers. You're sort of doing more professional things. So it gets a lot more interesting. So if you're kind of bored in second year, you'll find in third year that it gets a lot more exciting, but it also gets a bit more difficult as well. And I wouldn't say it's hell like at all the first years. I think the first years are really sort of easing you into using a bit more complex math, easing you into seeing physics as a sort of having a different approach, not just like these laws came from this book. It's more of a we are all discovering these things in a way. So that's very good. So yeah, why don't we, Brandon? How did you find the first years?
Yeah, the first years were good because it was just easing you into living somewhere else or going to uni, studying all different ways that you're used to. I wouldn't even say like the jump from second to third year was hell. It was a jump, but it was never really terrible. Like it was always fairly an expected move up, I think. But first and second year were opposite of hell. They were great fun.
That's pretty good. So we'll go to the next question. How significant was the impact of COVID? Did it make things much more challenging from students' perspective? Brandon, how was the sort of the impact of the pandemic on your studies?
Well, so it came at a really bad time for us because we would be doing the projects in person in the uni. So that was a major impact. We had to move to virtual stuff because I know at least with my project I'd be able to have been in a lab doing practical work. But in terms of lectures and tutorials, the uni's been very accommodating with Zoom lectures and recordings of the lectures put on. It was more difficult than it would have been in person, but the uni has made every possible change they could to make it not impact as hard as it possibly could have done.
Yeah, no, I agree. How about you, Kirsty? How was your experience?
Yeah, and I definitely have found it a struggle having to do all of university online, especially because I do really like the social aspect of university. So not actually being in studying with my friends was quite difficult. And yeah, I think like as Brandon was saying, it is always going to be more difficult doing something online than in person. However, one thing that I actually have really, really benefited from is our lectures being recorded. I found it so useful when I was studying, if I didn't quite get something, to be able to like go back and like find the bit in the video where they actually explained it rather than trying to read notes. So I think for people who are kind of like a more kind of like hands-on, like need to like listen to someone saying it rather than read notes, that side of it was definitely more useful because like yeah, so I just really, really like the fact that the lectures are all recorded.
No, yeah, I agree as well. So definitely the biggest impact was the project because it's your opportunity to do some actual research. You don't get to decide everything, but also you get to sort of make decisions and do the experiment in person. We didn't have that, but we also had sort of the recordings were really, really helpful. I think in other years, sometimes it would be a bit annoying when the lecturers would forget to upload like a presentation or would forget to do something. You'd be like, oh my God, I missed the class or something like that. But in this case, you had the entire content of the course available to you. If you wanted to revisit, or if you thought maybe they went too fast over something, you could just revisit it the next day. So that was really, really helpful. And also, considering the situation, I think they managed it the best way possible. Obviously, it's not a perfect, it's not an ideal situation because of the things that are going on. but hopefully I think for next year things will be a lot much better. And if also they have the experience from this year, so a lot of things would have improved than just sort of out of nowhere they had to shift everything online. So the next question is, how did you adapt with studying in a different country as an undergraduate? So this is probably for me. I really enjoyed it because I think, well, Scottish people are really, really friendly, and also in the university you get people from from everywhere, so you get to meet a lot like international students from everywhere. And I'm trying to think, just sort of like, I guess, a general outlook. Yeah, it's been really positive. I think all the people I met in first year whilst living on campus, it was really helpful because even if you're sort of a bit introverted or extroverted, you're a bit forced to hang out with these people that you don't know. So even if you're a bit reluctant to go out there and introduce yourself to people, you're now living with, like, in my case, 4 different strangers that you have to see in the kitchen every day. So you end up making friends whether you want it or not. So that's really positive because I think you get more of the culture of the place as well. So that was really good. Then on the following years, it was a bit more just moving to a normal flat, and also I think it's been really positive. I didn't personally struggle with the language, I'd say. At the beginning, sometimes thick accents from some professors can be a bit difficult to sort of understand. But in my case, I didn't really struggle with that. But I'd say that's probably one of the main things. And also, if you're coming from a different country, it can be hard to be far away from your family. I know a lot of people are just like, oh, I miss my family, just take a train and they're there. And in our case, you probably have to take a plane or something like that. So it's good to have your family meetup planned through the year when you can go home and see your family. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's absolutely doable, and it's also really fun because you get to see like a completely different country, you get to see different culture, you get to learn a lot. So I'd say it's really, really positive experience. And if you go to like a different language, you also get to learn a language, which is pretty cool as well. So the next question was, what was the most challenging course that you've taken so far? Brand, what would you say was the most challenging course?
That's a hard one. I would say solids, liquids, and gases, because it was a lot of, from what I've been told, very basic chemistry, but I was never any good at chemistry at all. So it just stumped me.
Yeah,
so I'd say it would be that.
Yeah, I think for me, theoretical physics was a bit, it was a bit challenging just because the math felt very outlandish at the beginning, and so it was like a familiar topic because it was about gravity, which it's a pretty cool subject, and we usually study lots about it, but it's all from with different physics and a lot more complex. So it was quite challenging at the beginning, I would say, theoretical physics.
Yeah, I also took theoretical physics, and that's definitely been, in my opinion, the hardest class I've taken. Yeah, and I think for me it was definitely like the kind of style of maths, because I think up until a certain point we're very used to subbing in for maths. Like, we do a bit of deriving, but I had never done deriving like that class until I'd taken it. I definitely think it's a useful class, but it was definitely the most challenging that I found.
Yeah, I agree. So we can go to the next question. Any subjects you wish you're taken beforehand? So I imagine you're saying sort of like high school, that you've taken sort of before coming to uni. I would say if I had the chance to take a bit more programming, I think it would have been really helpful. Sort of do a bit of like a Python course or something like that. It doesn't have to be like too like complex or very high, but but just coming into a computing class, just knowing a few of the commands and knowing a few of the things that you're gonna see before, it allows you to focus more on the physics and the physics that you're dealing with, rather than just the commands and all this stuff. But I think the university has done recently some changes sort of to make sure in the first years you get more sort of coding experience, so that later in the course you're not struggling with anything like that. How about you guys?
Yeah, I really wish I had taken computer science further in high school. I kind of dropped it just because it wasn't something I was particularly interested in at the time, and I hadn't been made fully aware at the time how much coding was kind of in physics. And if I had known that kind of beforehand, I would have done that. And also just kind of like on a personal note, because I also now see it's more entwined, I would have for my humanities subject, I kind of wish I'd done geography now, because I can see how that kind of intertwines with like the more astrophysics side of physics, which I do really enjoy. At the time, couldn't really see how geography overlapped with physics at all. But yeah, if I could go back, I would have definitely taken those two subjects. Yeah.
How about you, Brandon?
Definitely, like you guys have been saying, the programming side of stuff. But also, I didn't do advanced higher maths, and that kind of put me on a disadvantage in first year, because I was having to learn all that stuff for the first time. But it wasn't like impossible to do. I did mechanics instead, which helped more with a different part of the course that we did.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So the next question is about the application process. So how's the application process? How'd you find it, Kirsty?
Yeah, it was definitely kind of like the first time I'd ever done something like that, I would say. I think it was, for me, quite fun. I really enjoyed going to all the open days, and I really enjoyed kind of trying to write out something and figuring out what I wanted to do. I understand that people do find it stressful, but I don't know, I did find it quite fun trying to like almost make this path for like the next part of my life. And for me, like I think the biggest factor my school tried to like make us think about was the personal statement. And if that was one thing that I could like say to people now, it definitely depends on the university to how much they take into account your personal statement. I know Strathclyde are more forgiving with a personal statement, but for example, if you're going to do medicine, your personal statement better just mention medicine and that's it. So yeah, it definitely is worthwhile, in my opinion, if you can, to go to open days and see what they like.
That's pretty good. How about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I found it fairly straightforward. The personal statement I found a lot more difficult because I was just never good at writing about myself. So, but we had a lot of help at my school, so that really smoothed the process out. Definitely go open days and stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry about that. I think in my experience, just because it was from a different country, I had to sort of find out all the information for myself. And if I had any questions, I had to like email a bunch of people to find out. So it was a bit stressful for me, especially the personal statement. I feel like you might sort of freak out at the beginning and be like, oh my God, what am I gonna say? I don't have anything. You have lots of things to say. So don't worry too much about that. So take it as like you write a bit every day until you'll find yourself that you've pretty much wrote the whole thing. And so yeah, in my case, it was a bit stressful at the beginning. I had to sort of chase my teachers and be like, sign this and like write this, and I'm like, oh my God, please. But I know that usually in like UK schools, you get a lot of support. So definitely make use of that. Make sure that like your school knows what you're interested in, and they'll probably be able to guide you all through the process.
Also for that now, which I don't think was a thing when we were applying, there's a Unibuddy app that people can get, and I know Strathclyde's a part of it, and I think there's quite a few universities on it, and you can go on that, and if you do have any questions, there's like students that'll answer the questions within, it's meant to be like they'll answer within 24 hours, so that's also a good thing if you do struggle with anything. That app can be like really helpful.
Yep, definitely. 100%. I think you can sort of see all the profiles, and then you can just click on one of them and just ask them any questions. They're pretty much like us undergrads or PhD students, and you should definitely give it a go if you have any more questions after this Q&A. So the next question is, which field is more forgiving, theoretical or experimental? Brandon, what do you think?
I would say experimental because I'm a bit biased towards there, just because it's easier to spot mistakes, I think, in practical setups. Like you can point out, you can follow wires back, you can do all this. And that might just be a personal thing. I might just be bad at going through equations and seeing where I dropped a plus or minus sign. But yeah, I feel like it's experimental just because it's easier to find and fix any mistakes you make.
Have you had any similar experience, Kirsty?
I think that they can both be as harsh and as forgiving as each other. I think, yeah, like what Brandon was saying, it can be really hard if you're looking through equations to figure out. Like for me, I sometimes have to get other people to look at my work and be like, what have I done wrong? Please tell me, especially with code. But then again, sometimes with experimental, it can really depend on the experiment. Like there's sometimes where, yeah, you've not turned the thing on at the wall and you're standing for half an hour wondering why nothing's working. Yeah, I think they can both be, yeah, it really does depend. You can have some theoretical things that are straightforward. You can have some theoretical things that are really difficult. You can have some experiments that'll be really straightforward, and you can have some experiments that are going to be really difficult. I think it starts to break down more when you look at specific subjects and specific experiments.
Yeah, definitely. I think it really depends on who you ask. If you ask a theoretical physicist, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's a." So yeah, it definitely everyone has different experience in terms of that. And I've seen like most people have a mix of the two. So if you're a researcher, you're probably never a 100% theoretical, 100% experimental. You're probably doing both on like a daily basis. So definitely don't think too much about the sort of the duality that sort of a lot when you read media and stuff, there's always this duality between theoretical and experimental. In the real world, it's a lot more fuzzy and sort of like a spectrum. So yeah, definitely don't worry too much about that. So we're almost coming to an end, but I think we can answer the last two questions. So what sorts of jobs can you get from physics? So I think we've spoken a bit about the research aspect of it. So if you're really interested in a field and you'd like to study it further and sort of do research in that field, there's a lot of opportunities in academia and industry as well. Sort of like research jobs in industry. Then there's if you're more into sort of engineering, you can also do designs, sort of prototypes and things like that. Also, there's a huge, if you're interested in teaching, there's a lot of opportunity, especially in the UK, for teaching physics. And if you also like that research aspect, you can also sort of do like teaching in a university as well. What do you guys, what can you guys add to that? Because there's lots of things.
Yeah, there's honestly so many. Like my favorite presentation when I came to an open day at university was one of our professors, Nigel Langford, always done a presentation of what jobs can you get in physics, and it would just be like a massive page with all these words on it, and it would have like so many things. Like you can work in a bank, from having the numerical skills, you can go into coding from the coding skills, you could write a book from the literacy skills. Like it was kind of like an endless list. There's kind of a jokey aspect behind it, but there was also a lot of truth that you're not really limited to just core physics things, because it is very hands-on with the maths, very hands-on with the coding, and you do have to write essays and stuff, so you do also get literacy skills. You're already like gaining all these skills, so any jobs that will appreciate those things will appreciate someone with a degree in physics.
Absolutely. Have you got any thoughts, Brandon, about?
Yeah, I'd say definitely like the two main aspects of a physics degree are the theoretical knowledge that you get from it and all the amazingly transferable skills that you get getting that theoretical knowledge. So like there's numerical, like you said, literacy, research, all of this can be transferred into basically almost any job, bar like anything that requires really specialized knowledge, like piloting or medicine.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Great. So we've got our last question just in time. So favorite topics. So what's your favorite subject? What's the thing you like most about physics? Brandon, what would be that for you?
It's kind of a cop-out, but I'd say the labs. I just enjoy the experimental. It's not really one topic, but I enjoy getting in the labs and doing experimental work, writing that up.
Thanks. How about you, Kirsty?
Oh, plasma physics. I love it so much. Like I said, I've always loved growing up and learning about space, and that's a huge part of plasma. And then also now I'm very much like interested in the kind of environmental side of physics and what kind of jobs there is in that. And again, plasma and kind of nuclear physics is a big impact in that. So yeah, definitely 100% plasma for me.
Yeah, so for me that would be quantum physics, so atomic physics in specific. There's something very special, I think, to do sort of like this massive experiments on these little tiny things that make up the world. I just think it's really cool that you've got this whole machinery just to cool down this little cloud of atoms that you're making, like you're shining lasers into it, seeing what happens, and then learning things about them from the outside. So I think that's really, really cool. That would be like my favorite subject, my favorite topic. So thank you so much for your questions. I think we can wrap it up. Just thanks again for the Bangor, Dumfries, and Galloway, and also the Scope Society and the Strathclyde Physics Society as well for organizing this Ask Me Anything. I hope it was useful for you. If you still got any questions, just make sure you can use the Unibuddy sort of system where you can ask any questions to any Strathclyde student. I think it's also available for all the universities. I hope it was a positive experience in general, and thank you so much for joining us.